Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be, let's go back to your place. Well, I've got an email here from a viewer who met a woman and did a good job of getting her phone number, setting up a date with her. And then at one point, I think it was on their first date, she said, let's go back to your place, basically. And so I'm going to go through it and kind of critique his game and what he did right, what he did wrong. Because he went back to her place, they started fooling around, and she started saying, oh, it's really late, I should go. And so I'm going to address some of these things, because these are like the last-minute objections that tend to come up. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to sex and hooking up, it's got to be the man's fault. And when a woman says things, especially if a woman says, I'm not fucking you tonight, or you're not getting laid tonight, what it basically means is, I'm going to fuck you as long as you don't talk me out of it. And so from the looks of it, it doesn't look like this guy really understood what she was saying to him and how he should have handled those objections, because obviously he didn't get laid, but obviously he did a good job of winding her up, getting her excited to the point where she felt safe and comfortable enough to where she's like, hey, let's go back to your place and watch a movie together. But since he didn't really know how to handle little objections and tests that she was throwing at him, he wasn't able to get the football across the field goal, or the end zone, if you will. So the idea is I want to go through and critique it, and because obviously many of you watching this video are going to be in a similar position either today or at some point in the future. I mean, seducing a woman really is an art. It's knowing how to handle those pressure points without coming unglued, getting mad and upset, which is a lot of guys tend to do, because they think, hey, things are going so well, what's the problem? And it's just not like that. Because sometimes women will say things when they mean the opposite, and they'll act like they're not interested when they're interested. They'll act like they're not interested in sex, or they'll even come right out and say they're not interested in it. And what they're really doing is they're testing your strength and testing to see what you're made of, to see if you remain indifferent and fun and playful, or if you totally come unglued. If you come unglued, it's a bad way to go. So I have a quote that I wrote on this topic, and then we're going to go through his email. And the quote says, women like sex too. However, they don't want to feel like they are being used, treated like a sex object, or only being a vehicle for a man's sexual release. They date and sleep with men who are strong and secure. They will often feign disinterest, that they have to leave, that they are mad, or that they are not happy, to test a man's strength and worthiness. In order to pass this test, a man must not become diminished, upset, uncentered, frustrated, controlling, needy, disappointed, irritated, angry, or fearful that he won't get what he wants. If he does, he will fail her test and get rejected. If he consistently shows playful indifference and is unattached to getting what he wants, she will reward him by letting him have his way with her. His desire for her and his ability to walk away without getting what he wants is a demonstration of his masculinity, worthiness, and sex appeal. Like, I'll give you an example. Earlier today, I was hanging out with my girl, and she's kind of tired, laying out. She's like, oh, I'm going to take a nap. And so I laid down next to her, and I'm always like a child, basically. Even though I'm 44, I act like I'm 12, and she'll tell you. And so we're like laying in bed together, and we're kissing, we're making out a little bit. And she's like, all right, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to take a nap. I'm really tired. And then so she like turns her head, and then so I go from one side of her to the other side, and then my face is like back in her, so I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And she starts giggling and laughing. We start making out, and she's like, I'm getting really turned on. Stop, get out of here. And she even pushed me away. And so I just laid there. And then, I started messing with her again and teasing her. And we start making out. And eventually, what happened? She got turned on, and we had a great lovemaking section. And it was wonderful. But the idea is she was really kind of tired, and she wanted to go to sleep, but I had other plans. I didn't force myself upon her, but I was playful, and my attitude was I could take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, what was going on? She's still kissing me. She's still making out with me. She's still touching me. So she's still reciprocating, even though she says, no, I'm not fucking you now, and it's not going to happen. And I just giggle and I laugh at her the same way I'm doing right now. And I'm silly about it. Like I said, she turns her head and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take a nap." And then I get on the other side of her where she's facing, and I'm looking right in her eye. And my face is kind of near her face, and she starts smiling and laughing, and I start messing with her. And that's the way you gotta be. You gotta be playful. It's like playful indifference, but it's a take it or leave it kind of attitude. You are absolutely in no way, shape, or form ever going to force yourself on a woman. It's constantly being committed to what you want, but not being willing to give up on what you want. And she's probably going to kill me for mentioning this in the video of what happened earlier today, but this is such a great email here that I really want to talk about that, because that's what the guy could have done differently. But as I go through his email, I'll point some of these things out. And he says, "Hey Corey, I started watching your videos after my ex dumped me for another guy, and I was desperate," he puts in big bold letters, "to get her back. This was in February of 2014. I didn't get her back, but I learned a lot about myself and relationships. I got over my one-itis and started pursuing other women with some great success." So in other words, I assume he's talking about the myth of the one. It's really all about expressing the desire that you want, the desire that you have for a woman, and going for it without any kind of fear, but you're also okay without anything happening. In other words, you're not attached to the outcome. You don't need her to want you. You don't need her to want to sleep with you. It's really powerful to do that. Because the guy's thinking, "Hey, we were just making out a minute ago. What do you mean you don't want to have sex? Come on. Why are you teasing me that way? Why are you leading me on like that?" The guys get irritated and pissed off, and the woman just rolls her eyes, and she's like, he doesn't get it. So he continues on, "I recently stepped up my game and started approaching women I'd never even dream of talking to because they're so hot, and I always felt unworthy." That's awesome. Repetition's the mother of skill. This is how you get over it. It's like you decide what you want and you go for it, because at the end of the day, it's your fucking birthright. It makes no sense to be so crazy attracted to a woman and then not be able to have her. Think about it. We have that desire within us for a reason, but you have to show up, and the things you say and the things you got to do got to communicate that you're worthy, that hey, I'm a fucking catch too, and I can pretty much have any woman I want, but yet I'm here with you because I think you're really awesome and really special. But at the end of the day, if you push me away, it'll hurt, but I'll find somebody else. It's like you're not going to rub somebody else in their face, but it's also, when you have lots of choices and you'll have lots of options, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out with one particular girl. He says, "So last Friday, I'm standing outside a bar smoking with a friend, and this most beautiful, hottest woman walked past, and I was like, wow. She turned around and smiled, but kept walking. I chased her down the street, stopped her, and I got her number. Success," he puts in bold letters. "I texted her almost immediately so she would have my number and carried on enjoying my night." That's perfect. That's great. Shows that you were interested and you went for what you want. "She got back to me, and we went back and forth a few times. I suggest now, if she would really, really like to, if her interest was like a 7 or 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, she would have stopped and momentarily paused and looked at you and smiled, and you could have said, 'Hey, come over here.' But instead, she walked away. So what does that tell me? Her interest is probably like a 5 or a 6. And so the 5 or 6, you got to work a little harder for it." He says, "She got back to me, and we went back and forth a few times, and I suggested meeting up with her on Sunday, and she said she was busy, and the next day I told her I was going to be at a salsa club and that she was welcome to join. She didn't reply, so I backed off and didn't text her again." That's perfect. It's like the game of tennis. You offer to get together, she doesn't reply, so what do? You don't keep sending her messages, you just do nothing. It's the indifference. It's like, hey, I can take it or leave it. I got 3 other messages from 3 other girls I got to return right now, so I'm sure this girl will get back to me when she's got time. Why? Because who's going to blow me off? Because I'm fucking awesome. If you came from that place, it wouldn't bother you. You wouldn't come unglued when somebody doesn't respond right away. So he says, the next day she called me. Well, this woman's definitely interested. Suggesting to meet up in a few hours, and I agreed. Well, that's a good sign. There's a lot of women, she purposely didn't call you back right away. Why? Because 97% of the guys that she encounters come unglued when she doesn't call back right away. And that's how she determines whether or not you got a chance. But you passed the test. You didn't do anything. You just assumed, oh, she's busy. I'm sure she'll get back to you. Hey, when she's got some time. It's a fucking great job. Tells me you've been paying attention. He says, I agreed. I got ready. And then there was a complete radio silence. And she suggested to meet up and then totally flaked without saying anything. That's why it's so important to make a definite date. So she says, hey, let's meet up in a few hours. And you got to make definite plans. If she doesn't respond right away, assume that you don't have definite plans and go do something else. And if 2 or 3 hours she goes, hey, are you about ready to meet up? Just say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear back. I thought maybe something came up, or we'll do it another day. When are you free? I'd love to see you. It's really powerful when she sees that you're not going to sit around and wait on her to get back to you. So this right here, what I'm seeing is you're a little too available. There's nothing wrong if you got nothing going on to meet her out, but she didn't respond right away. And so what happened? You waited around on her. And then she finally got back and nothing happened. He says she sends me 4 messages the next day saying she wants to meet up. And I told her, you blew me off twice already and now I have to work today, so no. Nice response. So in other words, it's like, hey, I've tried to make 2 dates with you and you kind of jerked me around a little bit. So, just like I've said numerous times, when a woman treats you right, she gets the gift of your time. But when she treats you this way, she gets the gift of missing you. So, in other words, I'm busy. I've already tried to get together with you twice, and you treated me like a second-class citizen, in essence. So, I'm busy. I'll get to you later. He says she asked me to meet the day after, and I agreed. And she invited me to her friend's house for lunch, who was another really hot Venezuelan woman. Well, I wouldn't be doing group dates, dude. That's a bad way to go. So I met, we had lunch, went out for coffee, spent the entire day together, and we went to this arcade. We went ice skating, and at this point I started escalating sexually, and we were kissing passionately. I like how you escalated. You went to several different places. It was an adventure. It's like you have 3 or 4 dates in one day. So since you've been to several places together, and you're getting in and out of the car together, or on and off the bus together if you're in a big city, it makes it feel like you've been out on several dates. And remember, most women will sleep with a guy on between 3 to 4 dates. He says she wanted to go to dinner, so we went to this Thai place, and she asked me what we should do, and then followed up with, why don't we just go back to your place and watch a movie? Translation, let's go be alone at your place, and so you can seduce me because I'm having a really good time and I feel safe and comfortable with you, as long as you don't talk me out of it. So right then and there, it means she's comfortable enough to go back to your place. If a woman's suggesting going back to your place, it means she's pretty much ready to have sex with you, as long as you don't fuck it up or talk her out of it. He says, I was so down, so I was like, sure. So we're on the tube, back at my place, and she starts going off the idea, hey, it's kind of late, and I need to be home by this time, blah, blah, blah. And that's when you say, you know what? Cool. So why don't you kiss me now before you leave, because I know when you leave, you're going to be missing me. It's like you got to be playful like that. Because at the end of the day, once she gets turned on to the point where she's ready, then she's going to throw all of her plans to the side. Because that, again, is another test. Oh, I'm going to have to leave in a little bit. And the guy's thinking, you just got here. Now you're ready to leave? It's like, what the hell? The average guy gets upset at this. And as soon as you show that you're upset or diminished or frustrated, that's it. It communicates that you're not very experienced in seducing women. But if you come back with playful humor, like I was talking about with the story I share with my girl, and I'm probably going to get shit about later, but hey, it's because I care and I want to help you. So he says, now, here's where I think I fucked up. I should have tried harder to get her to my place. I just went with it and was like, okay, fine, we can meet up tomorrow night for cocktails or something. She agreed, kissed me, and got off the tube to go back to her place. So it kind of sounds like your place. So we're on the tube. Oh, the tube. I'm thinking, duh. You must be in the UK. So you're in the tube or the subway. Okay. So you're on the tube on the way back, and she's like, oh, it's kind of late. I need to be home by blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's when you have a comeback like, hey, you know what? If we go back to my place and you keep me up all night making mad, passionate love to me and won't let me go to sleep, if you don't get home on time, you can't really blame me for that. When you say something like that playfully, it's in a playful way. You're saying, hey, I'd really like to be alone with you and have a great time, but hey, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But it's a humorous way to communicate that you take it or leave it. But instead, you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go back to my place. We'll get together some other time. Remember, you're determined to get what you want. It's like my girl. She's like, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to take a nap. Oh, I'm not having sex with you right now. I'm really tired. And I keep fucking with her, and I keep kissing her, and she keeps kissing me back. And it just finally escalated, and we start dry humping, and next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. We had a good time together. That's what you do. But you didn't handle this pressure point. It's like the last little bit of resistance there, the last objection, if you will. You didn't handle it appropriately. But you were almost there, so it's great. At the end of the day, this is how you learn. Repetition's the mother of skill. He says, I just went with it and was like, okay, fine, we can meet up tomorrow night for cocktails or something. She agreed, kissed me, and got off the tube to go back to her place. The next day, I tell her, hey, I'm going to be at this cocktail place tonight. She said, oh, I'm busy tonight. Sorry, have a good time. And I said, okay, see you later. He says, then I texted her later asking her, when are you free? Now you're kind of fumbling the football. You're on a date with her, and then now you're trying to make another date. That's another needy, desperate move. But if you're like, all right, if she's like, hey, I want to go, just say, all right, great, well, call me later. And then if you don't hear from her, wait a week, and then call her and invite her out. This tells me you don't know the book very well, my friend. And this is what happens. You maybe read the book a couple times, but these little tiny pressure points like this, I talk about these kinds of things in my book. And when you don't know the material, this is where it comes out. This is where you fumble the football right on the 1 yard line. Right as you're about to score the touchdown, boom, you put the ball on the ground. And then you turn it over, and she leaves. And you go home with blue balls. Just a bad way to go. He says, so far, it's been 2 days since I sent that text, the text that said, hey, when are you free to get together next? And no reply. He says, I'm tempted to call her. That would be a mistake. But I feel like the best thing I should do is just wait it out, and if she doesn't get back to me, then forget her. She's just here for a month, and I really want to fuck her at least once. Well, the bottom line is you had the opportunity, bro, but you just weren't prepared. But at the end of the day, now I've gone through this, you can get a good idea how to use humor, how to use decisiveness and determination to get what you want, just like the example that I share with my girl. It's like, in your mind, you're thinking from the end, well, of course she's going to want to go home. Even when she says, oh, I think I'm going to go home early. It's like, no, you don't want to do that. Go home and go to sleep. That's boring. Why would you want to go to sleep? We can go back to my place. Like, oh, come on, just hang out for a little while. We'll have a great time. And she's like, okay. And she'll come with you. It's like she can do whatever she wants, but what you really like to do is for her to come back to your place. And if she doesn't want to, hey, that's totally cool. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone, Skype, or email coaching session. You can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab at the top of your screen, and follow the instructions for booking whichever option works best for you. And I will talk to you soon.